Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Noreen, and I'm here with Jen Rubinowitz of Coldwell Banker Best Homes. Hi, Jen. How are you?
How are you? Good.
I'm good. It's a Friday, which I'm pretty happy about. I know you realtor types have to actually work on weekends, but
Yeah, Friday is just another day.
I know. Do you take weekend days during the day or during the week?
Nope,
No?
we just kind of
Wow.
take the time off when we can.
Yeah, just always working. Well, and it's a very busy market. So we want to talk about when do you know if it's time to sell your home? And we want to kind of set the stage of we are in the Pacific Northwest. You're in Jefferson County,
hmm
and you work in the Port Townsend and Port Ludlow markets. Is that correct?
Yeah, we work Jefferson County and some Clallam, some Kitsap.
Yeah. So what's going on in that market? If it's not obvious to everyone who's trying to buy or sell right now, what's going on in the market?
It's very, very, very active. It's that supply and demand where when you have a lot of houses, then the buyers aren't so stressed about finding one. But we've got the
Mhm.
opposite situation now. We've got very few houses on the market and buyers are stressed out. And a lot of people think that the buyers are going to be the ones that are stressed, but the sellers get stressed too because now they're having to juggle multiple offers and make the right decision. And so there's anxiety on both sides. And
Well,
they're worried about finding a new house for themselves, depending on
of
what their
course,
life changes are. So,
of course.
multiple offer situations on almost every single deal. So,
hmm Which means that if I'm selling, instead of waiting on someone to come along and want to buy my home, I have lots of people wanting to buy my home all at the same time.
yes.
And that's can be good news, but in this market, it's almost crazy news because it's just almost more than you can process or figure out, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really key. I mean, a lot of people think because the market is hot, they should just do a FISBO and not pay a real estate professional, but they tend to leave money on the table, statistics show. So I always recommend that they work with a real estate person, whether it's me or somebody else that they trust. Of course, I'd
hmm
rather it be me, but
What is
just
FISBO you're
take
using?
yeah, take a good look at the market and know what you're up against and have someone watching your back.
What do you mean by FISBO?
Oh, for sale by owner.
So it's tempting to sell it by myself or
Yeah.
sell it on our own because it's such a hot market. This should be easy. But really, I think almost the opposite would be true because it's a very legal, complicated process
It
and an
is.
emotional process because you're selling your home. Typically, it's the home you're living in. Yeah. And so all the more reason that you want a professional, I would think, on your side. And you bring with you a team. I mean, it's not just the realtor, it's the title person, it's all of it. So there's a lot involved.
Yeah. Title, escrow, inspectors, repairs, the whole mortgage lenders, all of that
Mhm.
has to be managed and come into the mix before you can move
Yeah.
into a place.
And it would be easy to get caught up in that excitement of the demand, but also have that end up causing stress because I've sold a home in a kind of a hot market, sort of went through this, but nothing like Pacific Northwest. But it's tempting to kind of get caught up in that. And then you realize, wow, we have a lot to get done. Like we can't just
Right.
sell this home. We also have a place to take our family. And it is very complicated and there's a lot to get done. So,
Right.
um, what are the things that how do you know? I mean, it would be easy to assume that any homeowner, it's the right time to sell your home right now because in the Pacific Northwest and in Jefferson County, it's so hot right now. But what are those indicators that you kind of work within?
And honestly, it's about life and what you're doing. And regardless of what's happening in the market, if it's time for you to move or you want to
hmm
do a new change or move to a retirement community or retire or whatever your life cycle is at, um, don't let the housing market, regardless of what's happening, stop you from making that move. It's a quality
hmm
of life thing. So, in a tight market like this, one of the things that we're doing is seeing a lot of rent backs. So this it gives the seller time. They go ahead and close on the house.
hmm
The buyer gives the seller time, 60 days, 90 days to find something. Um, we can also do a longer closing date. So that gives the seller more time to find and make a move. Um,
So those deadlines are not moving on their own. Those are something that the buyer, the seller, the realtor, you sit down and negotiate those through to make sense for
Exactly.
everybody, right? I mean, I would assume that the buyer's excited to get moved in, but the seller's excited to have some order to their move,
Yeah,
right? So
and some stress relief from, oh my God, we've got a quick sale. What are we going to do? So
yes,
so
yes.
those are the kind of things that you talk over with your listing agent and
Hmm.
talk through, okay, what expectations do we want to set for the buyer? Because if
Hmm.
I want a longer closing date, I want a buyer to expect that right up front. So when we put the listing in the MLS, we can kind of set those expectations of what the seller would prefer. I was working with a woman in Cal Point here in Port Townsend last year, and she was, COVID has really changed people's perceptions of where they want to be and how they want to live. And she just really wanted to get back closer to family and grandkids. But she was nervous because her new retirement community was a brand new development. And so she was worried about the building process and what happens if it's delayed. So we negotiated a post closing occupancy for the seller. And she actually ended up moving out sooner than she was expecting to because the construction schedule stayed on target. So
So you're using a lot of lingo. Wow. That's so posts. That's what
post
my job is.
closing occupancy.
I
Yeah,
know I make you slow down and re-say it. So post so what do you mean by that? Do you mean that you negotiate a certain period of time they can stay in the home even after the deal is closed?
correct. So the buyer takes possession. They go through the closing just like they normally would and
Mm-hmm.
negotiate. It's basically a short-term lease for the seller.
Sure.
Now,
Sure.
there are risks, of course, with everything like that, but you have to make sure that the buyer's home insurance is aware that the seller is going to be occupying. So they're basically a landlord for that amount of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say who pays the bills and how does that work? So okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Then you switch and you look at it from a landlord tenant perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Tenant usually pays all utilities,
Mm-hmm.
but the landlord is responsible if the furnace goes out or um, something happens that needs repair, then they're a landlord and they're responsible for fixing it.
The
So,
buyer.
yeah,
Wow. So do you do paperwork that accompanies
yeah,
all of that? You would
yeah.
have to, right?
It's
Because someone
really
has to be
communication
liable.
is so cool, is so key, right? Because
Yeah.
you want to make sure I love finding that win-win spot, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, because the buyers are so anxious right now, a lot of them are negotiable on longer close dates or letting the seller stay in the house for a period of time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just a matter of finding what works for both seller and buyer.
Yeah. A lot of negotiation and a lot of new relationships, people that are working together very quickly for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think I see brokers all the time sort of playing go between on that and keeping everyone de-stressed. And you might have a single buyer who's buying from a family of five who's nervous about moving and the timing around that. So all those things are clashing, and you're kind of you're one of the people in the middle saying, "Okay, people, we can do this."
It's one of
Yeah,
the things I love about real estate. I mean, every transaction, every home sale is
yeah,
because you've got different personalities, you've got different problems, you've got different goals. And so getting to know everyone and where they are and what they want and finding a creative solution sometimes really I just love finding solutions. So
yes.
it's perfect for me.
Yeah, it's great for someone who enjoys people and all the differences in people and their life situations and such. So,
Yeah.
so what else did you want to cover today? You said you wanted to talk about financing and all
Yeah,
of this.
yeah, one of the things that a seller has to address is when they when they've got a contract on a house, a lot of times they're going to use that cash, but they don't have it right up front until the closing happens. And then
Mhm.
there's a interim period, right? So how are they going to do that? Because very few people want to move twice. But
Sure.
to take that pressure off, you could just plan on renting for 6 months or renting for 90 days. We've got a lot of vacation rentals and uh, Airbnbs here. And so we've had a lot of sellers go ahead and sell the house, put their stuff in storage, go into a VRBO or an Airbnb for a couple of months. So it takes some of the pressure off of finding that property right away. And it does revolve around moving twice, which can be a pain for some people, but that's an option for them. And
Yeah. Hmm. Are most of your people moving out of the area? Are they selling and moving out of the area? So you're coordinating out
uh,
of state, or are they moving locally? What's going on in this
I,
market the way it is?
I'd say in our market, we have a more mature demographic.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if I look at my clients from last year, most of them were moving closer to family and wanted to be closer to grandkids. Um, but it's a mix. It's a mix, and it always changes. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't really
Mm-hmm.
predict that. But
Yeah.
one thing they can do too is make the sale of their home contingent on them finding another home. Again, more buyers are negotiable because it's such a tight market.
Oh, right. Yeah, I bet.
One of the advantages of closing sooner and doing a post occupancy is that
Mm-hmm.
now the seller has that cash in the bank, and they can then compete in a stronger position when they're buying
Yeah.
a new home because
Wow.
cash is king, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've got a lot of frustrated buyers right now because they're negotiating based on a loan, and we have several cash buyers they really struggle to compete with. So if you've got
Mm-hmm.
cash in the bank, it's the ultimate best position to be in when you're ready to buy a new house.
A lot easier
Yeah,
than negotiating through loan process and all of that and timing and all of that.
right.
Yeah.
And do you think
So,
like cash is better than financing?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go through all the underwriting, you don't have to go through all the appraisal process. It's generally a shorter timeline to close
Mhm.
versus working with a lender. So if we can get a seller in a position where they have cash in the bank and ready to go, that's our goal.
Yeah. So if I'm thinking of selling my home and I'm shopping for a realtor, and honestly, there are a lot of very qualified, realtors in our area. When I see someone looking for a realtor on Facebook, there's like 127, people that are either volunteering their friend or saying, "Hey, I'll help you."
Uh-huh.
So what is it about working with you that you think, I know that you bring years of experience to the table, and I can tell by just the time I've gotten to know you that you're a very calm and calculative thinker. And so I can see you keeping things even in the midst of stress. But what do you think is that one thing that just really differentiates you? And I know it's hard sometimes to talk about our own strengths, but what do you think are your strengths that you bring to that relationship?
Well, my earlier life was in telecommunications, and I managed global projects with
Hmm.
folks from individual countries with our U.S. team. And so um, my skill set is really good at keeping people calm and
Hmm.
focusing on solving the problem,
Hmm.
and juggling all the pieces that have to come together
Yep.
with making that home yours. And
Yes.
so um, I just love working with folks, and I've got the skill set to keep things calm when things go wrong, and something always goes wrong.
Yeah, you just learn to expect it, right? It's such a complicated thing, and there's so many moving parts that
I,
you probably have come to expect it, I would think.
yeah, it's like a wedding. There's something that always goes wrong.
Sure.
So
It's how you respond that makes all the difference, right? Yeah. And so you're a little bit unusual in that you have that sort of I don't know if I want to say technical, but that detail oriented skill set, but you're also obviously enjoy people. And so that's nice to find in someone in the same person. And I know that what you do is obviously a sales role, but if you come across like a salesperson, you're probably not going to work with many people. So
I respectfully will disagree with that a little bit. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I
yeah,
consider myself a customer service person. And it's
yeah,
working with that buyer or seller to get through all the roadblocks and make it
mm,
as smooth as possible for them.
yeah.
So I'd say
Sure.
given where we are now, it's not so much sales as service.
Yeah. And how well you cover all the details in servicing that person until all those details are tied together. Yeah. Yeah. Until the person's in the home, the new family's in the home, and the family selling is settled or in their transition place. I would think you probably don't feel like your job is completely done.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
My goal is to have my clients become my friends and have a lifetime relationship with them beyond
Sure.
selling or buying. I
Sure.
still touch base with my folks, from 5 years ago and just say, hey, how's it going? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
that's nice. That says a lot about who you are. So anything else you want to talk about? I know that I always try and do the obvious, which is give people the opportunity to contact you. So if they're watching this right now and they need to sell their home or they want to talk to someone about it, do they call your office? Do they call you personally? What's the best way to get a hold of Jen Rubinowitz?
You can call, text, or email. My cell phone is 360-774-0130.
Mhm.
And my email is Jen, sells port to port at gmail.com.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for visiting with me today. I'm sure we'll be doing this again.
I look
Just,
forward to it.
yes, it'll be fun. So nice to see you.
You too. Thank you.